Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm everyone host Shorty, and today we're reviewing Quests Aside, which is very much a role-playing based comic book. That is a play on the side quests thing that happens in pretty much every role-playing game you're ever going to play, and there begins and ends pretty much everything you need to know about the humor of this comic book. Before I get too far into it, though, it kind of needs a bit of a preface, and I've mentioned before, I've been reviewing some other things recently. Role-playing is something I do a lot. I've been doing it since I was a teenager, going on from playing Warhammer games to Magic the Gathering, and then like even my friends just create their own games that they put together, and D&D and everything else you want to think about. I play a lot of role-playing games. I'm currently in the middle of one and also writing one for next year. I love role-playing. Most of my friends are role-players, or a significant portion are. People I've known for 20-odd years are role-players, and the reason I know them is they're role-players. So, much in the way I want to talk about representation of minorities and punk and heavy metal and things that I love, I tend to be a little bit harsher on my criticism, basically because I don't want to think anyone to think that I'm giving something an easy ride because it's in my wheelhouse or because it's just something which I get a personal kick out of. So, this is a comic book about role-playing games, and it's done with a very obvious humor intent. And I had it on my pull list because of these things, not just because it's done by Vault Comics and they're really, really cool. And I'm kind of really frustrated to have to say this, but I did not enjoy it. There is a couple of things in here which made me smile. A couple of little bits and pieces which were entertaining enough, but they barely got it out of being a 1-star review for me. There's a couple of bits and pieces where they have some fun with concepts of like what it means to be in a role-playing game and how you pick up quests and how the world reacts to adventurers. That is pretty much it, though. And even then, like a lot of the things in here, they're kind of so heavily focused on the role-playing experience without really getting to grips with why that's funny or how often it happens or why it's a part of the role-playing ideology, why you do these things, that unless you're already very heavily invested in it, you're not going to get these jokes. And I don't mean that to be like, oh God, it's really aimed at a higher kind of person. It's like only people who are like in on the joke will get it. It's like, no, they're just so specific even within the genre of role-playing. And that is pretty much all that I can say that I enjoyed from it. What I didn't enjoy was the fact that the story is all over the place. It takes a long time for you to even find your main antagonist. Protagonist, my mistake. And when you do, you don't really find out much about them whatsoever. There is a cast of characters which are very, very thinly written. There is a weird thing that the main character, the main protagonist, appears to be talking to himself, and then there's a twist at the end that apparently he appears to be talking to a ghost of his younger self, which is just weird. There's no real explanation for that at all. It's just left hanging there at the end. Two of the characters in this, one of whom is apparently a princess who is angry at the king and has been hired by the guy who owns the saloon or the bar, a tavern, should I say, who's friends with the king. These got adventurers, but she wants to kill the king, and he's hired up. He has to send her away because the king's coming. And she's friends with another barman who's also a really bad wizard. And those two occasionally talk to the viewer, you, the reader, but it's done in a weird way. You kind of only with hindsight realize that's what they're doing. They get a slightly different color speech bubble when they're doing it, but it's not maintained throughout. When it goes to box out text, it then goes to a completely different color, even though apparently they are still talking to you. I had to read that thing 2 or 3 times before I got exactly what the intent was and how it was played out. That is kind of systemic endemic of the entire thing. So much of it requires effort to get to the point of what they're trying to do. It shouldn't be this hard to pick up a comic book and enjoy it. And again, I'm seeing somebody who has role-played for decades, and I'm still like, this is just incomprehensible at times. Frustratingly, the artwork isn't even that good either. I mean, the artwork is one of the things I'm not going to heavily criticize. It's not bad, but it's kind of basic. The cover artwork is about as good as it gets. And if you're used to comic book art, where the covers are usually the selling point of it, you'll know how much effort they put into it. You've got to see there that is not like the cleanest, crispest artwork you're ever going to see. And it gets worse inside. It's basic and standard. It does the job, even when they have a little bit of an Escher moment going in there, and you could have really had some fun with perspective and dimensions. You don't. You just get something that's kind of like laid out like a regular room, just stuff isn't where you expect it to be. It is frustrating, and I hate to say it, but it was on my pull list after reading issue 1. It no longer is. I just didn't enjoy it. Oh well, it's Free Comic Book Day tomorrow, so that means I'm going to be in a good mood because I'm going to spend the rest of my day sorting stuff out, getting goodie bags ready. If you're watching this and you're one of my customers, I hope to see you. If you're watching this and you have never been in my store, never been to Huddersfield, but you like comic books, go and find your local comic book store tomorrow. Go and see them. You'll get some free stuff, which is awesome, just as is, but support them as well. Free Comic Book Day is not free to the comic book stores. We pay to get this stuff in, and the reason we do it is because people come and not only grab a whole bunch of freebies, but they then spend a little bit of money as well. So go and support comic book stores. We've gone through 2 years of very, very rough times. This is the first Free Comic Book Day for a while that's got any hint of normalcy to it. So get out there, stay safe, obviously, look after each other, as I say at the end of every video, but do what you can to help your small local comic book stores. Every one of them will be grateful for you turning up. That's it from me, though. I'll be back next week. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.